Hello, Global Theater. My name is Jerry Fialka. Today is October 19, 2022. We want to thank Rob Grant and his amazing podcast. I'm probably wrong about everything. It's an honor and a pleasure to be here with Andy Cahan today. Andy, where in the heck you calling in from?
I don't know. I just got here. I'm hanging out at my little place over here. Oh, hi. I'm
Andy,
here in person.
you are. Andy, where are you calling in from?
I am calling in from Cathedral City, California.
How cool is that? And first question is, what is the best thing for a human being?
Sex.
Oh, that's a great answer. No one says that. You're unique. What's your
What do you
favorite?
mean?
No,
You mean
most
nobody says sex? I'm the only guy?
dude, I've done 1,000 interviews in 40 years. Maybe one other person might have said that. That's pretty rare.
Well, I'm a male species with a one-track mind. What do you expect?
Okay, the next question, Andy, is what's your favorite form of information? How it comes into you?
Well, I love listening to music. That's probably primary. And I love motion pictures and television and concerts. So that's
Good.
a media blitz of visual and audio media blitz.
Really well put, dude. You're articulate. The next question is why do you think humans collect or gather information?
That is built into their species. That's the way they operate. That's how they do it. Uh,
Yeah,
uh, lions and lions and tigers and bears and snakes and ants don't do it. Only humans do that.
right. That's good. But why? That you answered the next question, is it innate or invented? You're saying it's innate in humans to collect information, but why do we collect information?
Well, that's the way we were built. That's the way our brains and our energy is put together. That's how we are. Why is the sky blue? Why is a rock a rock?
That's good. Next question, do thoughts create emotions?
Do what?
Do thoughts create emotions?
Absolutely. That's what emotion is, thinking.
Is thinking more innate in humans or more invented by humans?
Innate.
Fill in the blank, Andy. I don't know what I think until I.
Get there.
That is a good answer. McLuhan says, I don't know what I think until I say it. Joan Didion says, I don't know what I think until I write it. But you're talking about getting there. Can humans think without language?
Of course. Emotion is basic, just like, crying, laughing, happy, sad, mad, angry, whatever. It's all built in.
What Chomsky says a language is not just words, it's culture, tradition, a unification of community, like your concert setting, a whole history that creates what a community is. What do you do when language doesn't work? When language breaks down, what do you do?
Facial expression and hand movements.
Nice, dude. You really get what we're after. Your observations of humans in general, Andy. I know it's both and it depends. Are we more thinking beings or are we more feeling beings?
Ah, equal.
Good answer. You know, I like Bridget Bardot said, when I make love, I don't think. I say, like, good luck. Turn off when you're making love.
I know.
Here's a good Zappa question. Can you come and laugh at the exact same moment?
I have.
Very good.
I definitely have.
Two
And so
questions.
did she
And so did she.
at the same time.
Beautiful. Two questions from Alan Turing in the 1950s. Is thinking a function of the soul?
Sure.
Can machines think?
No, we have to program them to do what we want them to do.
Do you more pursue happiness or more pursue meaning?
I pursue happiness.
Does the brain more detect consciousness or create consciousness? Andy, like, is consciousness bubbling away and we're detecting it, or are we actually creating it?
No, we're detecting it because it's what we're perceiving.
Good. Is perception reality?
Sure.
What's faster, speed of light or speed of thought?
Thought.
Dude, there's no right or wrong answers to any of these questions, but that one you got right. Congratulations. Okay, Audre Lorde, the poet, said, "You can't dismantle the master's house using the master's tools." Yvonne Rainer said, "You can if you expose the tools." What new tool do you suggest?
Uh, your brain, your thinking,
Beautiful. What new toy do you suggest?
a cell phone.
What do you worry about when you go to bed at night?
Whether I'm going to get laid tomorrow.
Dude, you are pure rock and roll. I love it. This is good. So Marshall McLuhan learned from the poet Ezra Pound that artists are the antenna of the race. This means musicians, artists, painters. They broadcast and detect the hidden psychic effects of our inventions so that we can learn to cope with what we don't like about our inventions. So I ask you the question McLuhan probed his whole career. Why do we ignore the hidden psychic effects of our inventions, even though the artists are broadcasting them to us?
Because we don't like it.
Do artists have moral obligation?
Well, to themselves. And then if they're moral to themselves, it will be automatic to everybody else. But they have to be moral to themselves.
Beautiful. Are you more afraid of old ideas or more afraid of new ideas?
Old. Because religion is old. And everybody sticks to old shit that has nothing to do with what's happening now. That's the
Be
problem.
Be here now. I love that. So, Andy, can you conjure up your earliest memory ever or one of them?
I think I was 3 years old, and my dog, my neighbor's dog, got hit by a car, and I was like 3 years old.
Is memory more a curse or more a blessing?
Blessing.
Tell me someone within your immediate family, just briefly, then outside your immediate family, who had an impact on you like a role model. And what specifically was that impact?
Paul McCartney, music and love.
That's outside your immediate family.
Oh,
Now inside your immediate family.
oh, you mean like my sister or my mom or dad?
That's immediate family, yes.
My dad was very, 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 very supportive, and so was my mother. But since I'm a boy, I'm with my dad more than my mom. So,
Well,
uh,
what's the main thing you got from your dad? What's the trait you sort of got from your dad?
well, we both have equal personalities, so we're very equal in our temper tantrums and our loves and our likes and dislikes, and it's very. I'm a carbon copy.
Wow. Did your parents raise you a particular religion?
They tried.
Which
Uh,
one?
well, I was born Cahan, is the old pronunciation, and it's the Cain family in the Jewish tribes. The
Yeah.
Cain family is the top of the tribe. That's the family I belong to as a Jew. But even at the ripe age of 13 years old, I hated religion. I hated talking Jewish. It sounded like you were spitting, you know, I hated it. So I made a deal with my mom. Since my uncle was a rabbi, I made a deal with her. I said, Mom, I'll get bar mitzvahed because I didn't want to do it.
Yeah.
I said, I'll get bar mitzvahed if you buy me a Kodak sound projector, a Yashica movie camera, and a Wallensack tape recorder so I can make my own monster movies. Then I'll get bar mitzvahed in English. I don't want to get bar mitzvahed in Jewish. I'll
Nice.
get bar mitzvahed in English. If you give me those, the camera and the projector and the tape recorder. So she said, okay. So I went to my uncle's house, who was a rabbi, and he put a wooden yarmulke on my head and wrapped a leather strap around my arm. And instead of saying Baruch Atoi Illinois Eloheinu, whatever, I said, "Oh God, King of the universe." I did it in English. So that's my. I don't like religion. I love George Carlin, and I love George Carlin's interpretation of religion because he'd been there and done that. He went to a religious school with the nuns, slapping him on the wrist and twisting his ear and all that shit.
Dude, I worked for George for a year, so I know what you're talking about. Beautiful. You really get what I'm after here, Andy. You're really articulate. I appreciate this. So in that regard,
You must know Sally Wade because she lives right in Venice on the canals.
I don't know Sally, but I know who she is.
Well,
Yeah.
that's George's widow.
I know it. I know George's daughter and his manager, but I never met Sally. So, anyways, onward and upwards. Do you pray?
Nope.
If God exists, what would you like God to say to you after you die?
I won't hear him. I'll be dead.
Can you forget to die?
Can I forget to die?
Yes. Yep.
I would love that.
Good.
I would really enjoy that. I forget to die. That would be awesome.
Very cool. Do evil people exist, or does evil use people as a vehicle?
Uh, Evil people exist because that is the way their thinking works. That's the
Yeah.
way they think. That's what they think. So they
Yeah.
exist. That's them. Evil.
Yeah.
Bad.
The question next is, how do you advise someone to deal with an enemy? First, I'm going to set it up with some modern thinkers. Alan Watts says, if you acknowledge your enemy, you empower them. Coppola stole from the mob and the samurai. Keep your friends close and your enemies closer. JFK said, forgive your enemy, but don't forget their name. And Fellini says, I need an enemy. So it's a lot of thoughts. The basic question is, Andy, how do you advise someone to deal with an enemy? But first, how would you respond to Alan Watts? If you acknowledge your enemy, you empower them.
What you need to do is turn adversity into knowledge.
Wow.
That takes the whole thing and makes it really simple. All that bullshit, horrible crap that's coming at you, learn from it. That's called knowledge. And once you stick your hand into a fire and your finger gets burnt, then hopefully you're smart enough not to do it again.
Who'd you learn that from, or where'd you learn that? What
That's me. It's all me. Nobody told me that.
that is
I
good. Did you get straight A's in high school and grade school?
I cut school. I went to homeroom with my drummer, and then we hopped in his Corvair and drove to the train station and took the train to Greenwich Village and got stoned and walked around Greenwich Village. Then we took the train back to his car and drove back to the last class in high school, and that was my day of school. I never
What
went to school. I always played music and hung out and got stoned and took LSD.
what happened to your best friend? What'd he end up doing?
He was in my band, and he played with a lot of people after we broke up back in 1968, 67.
Very cool. So James Joyce was the first projectionist at a movie theater. You talked about movie projector. He did it in Dublin 100 years ago, and he basically checked out. He said, "This is stupid. Why should I go inside a building and see a movie of a tree when I can go outside and see a real tree?" Years later, Faulkner said sometimes the best fiction is more true than journalism. Why do we have to recreate things in order to get them? Why do we have to go to a theatrical play and watch people acting out life? Why don't we just live life?
Well, there again is the human species. Alligators, zebras, elephants, ants, spiders, they don't do that. Only we invent this complicated thought process, which makes everything really complicated. And I found out, being 74 and 3/4 years old, that less is more and simplify. Did you ever hear George Carlin say that he's got a lot of stuff?
Yes, I love that routine.
Well,
Simplify.
that's what life is. When you get to be in your 70s, you got a lot of stuff and you got a lot of baggage. So you got to simplify, because I notice that shit hits the fan every day. Something else goes wrong, something else hits you, and you got to deal with it. So that's part
Dude,
of it.
that's Bucky Fuller. Less is more. Very good. So, what was the tipping point? Let's get into music now, Andy. What was the tipping point when you said, "I can write a song"? You're listening to these early influences like the Beatles, but where did you go, "I can do that"? Where was your tipping point?
Well, before the Beatles, I hope I'm correct. I think Del Shannon. What year was Del Shannon's Runaway? Do you
We
know?
can look it up later, but yeah, Del Shannon. So you heard Del Shannon's Runaway and you said, "I
And
can do."
I taught myself how to play the solo.
I got
And then the Beatles on Ed Sullivan.
yeah,
I bought that first album, and
yeah,
my cousin gave me a drum set.
yeah,
So I all day long I was playing drums to the Beatles' first album.
nice,
And then my father sat down with me and he showed me how to play chords on the
nice,
piano. So
yeah,
it was just uh, writing songs, because the Beatles gave me
right.
so much energy and so much creativity. I was writing songs every day.
Okay, here's the question. A screenwriting teacher said to me, "Great art, great music, great films is when you can clearly see the intention of the maker." Stanley Kubrick says the opposite. Great art, great song is when you can clearly not see the intention of the maker. Andy, what role intention play in your creative process when you're writing a song?
Um, mistakes. Mistakes create brand new shit that you never heard before. And when you repeat a mistake, then it turns into a hook.
Yeah.
So that's what writing a song is all of a sudden, oh, really? Oh, wow, that's cool.
Yeah.
so you blow your own mind by what you just did. So, and then you try to remember it. Like in the early days when John and Paul, they wrote songs every day and they just did it by memory and writing down the lyrics. But after that, you get your cassette player or your
Yeah.
tape recorder,
Yep.
and then your cell phone. So
Yeah.
that way it makes it easier to remember. But like Beethoven and Bach and all these guys, they
No
just wrote
recording.
out the music, and some of them didn't even need a piano. They just know
Yeah.
what the notes look like and they write it out. So that
Yeah.
every era of music has its own invention. So today is all state of the art technical shit. You can
Yep.
you can do a whole album and a movie on your cell phone, and
Duh.
it'll be 4K and it'll be broadcast quality. You can do an entire movie and record an album and do everything on your cell phone. That's where we're at.
Okay, I love what you said. It was beautiful. I'd just love to hear your reaction to Tom Waits' line. Tom Waits
Oh,
says, Tom Waits says the best music doesn't want to be recorded.
well, that's very interesting because that's true. Uh, when I was in Flo and Eddie's office at the Herbie Cohn complex, where Frank Zappa, George Duke, Tom Waits, and Flo and Eddie had their offices,
Yeah.
Tom Waits' office was right next door to Flo and Eddie's office. So
Yeah.
we're sitting there smoking a joint and playing Casio keyboards, and Tom Waits walks in, and Flo and Eddie and I always had a sort of like an Abbott and Costello abusive relationship. They'd always say shit to me that is demeaning, but it's really fucking funny. So
Right.
I enjoyed being the center of attention. So Tom Waits witnessed our little thing that Flo and Eddie with Andy do, and so Tom Waits says, "I wish I had an Andy." But
That is beautiful.
going back to your statement, Jimmy Seals of Seals and Crofts and Mac Rabenak, Dr.
Yeah.
John the Night Tripper, they both told me the same exact thing when I was 20 years old learning the music business. They said, it's what you don't play that sounds
Yeah.
good.
Yeah.
And that's along the same lines as Tom Waits' statement, the
Yeah.
song you didn't record or whatever.
Yeah, it's also the music is a sacred thing, and to record it is you lose the sanctity of it. It's supposed to be experienced live, but then we decided to start recording it. So it just changed us. Now, the second question in this regard to intention, Andy, is Marcel Duchamp said there's no art without an audience. How much do you think of your audience when you're writing your song?
100%. That is the whole reason and purpose for creativity of music and books and theater. Anything that the human can consume, that's it. That's it.
What's the function of music?
Joy. That's my, everybody has a different outlook. I mean, a song can make you cry, a song can make you angry, a song can make you sad, a song can make you happy, a song can make you horny. So the music affects you. It'll affect elephants and tigers. And it's a vibration. Music is mathematics and color. They're all the same. Color and music. Color and music. It's all the same.
Dude, that's really brilliant when you said Frank Zappa said that music is sculpting air molecules.
Well,
And
yeah, absolutely.
yeah, and
Uh,
the color
the
thing you have ESP because you caught on to the next question. Aaron Copeland says the four ingredients or elements of music are melody, harmony, rhythm, and tone color. We know what the first three are. What is tone color in layperson's terms? Not in him.
Bass, high and low, bass and treble, bass, mid, treble. That's the colorization.
Gotcha. Now, of those four elements, melody, harmony, rhythm, and tone color, how do you navigate those four? Do you, when you're writing a song, try to utilize all four, or are you more a rhythm guy or more a harmony guy, melody? Talk about those four elements when you're writing a song
Rhythm is the most important.
for you.
The, for me, the rhythm of the song is like the king. That is your foundation. And then, your melody and your chords will come after that. But whatever groove, and usually the opening line of the song, the opening lyric, that will set your tempo and your rhythm. And then once you got that, you keep on going. Like, I can't get no, just that. It's
Yeah.
you could just hear the rhythm. I can't get no,
Yeah.
or yesterday. You just get the rhythm from your opening lyric.
Beautiful. Andy, another friend of mine says the three tenets of music are technique, theory, and taste. Technique, you've learned how to play keyboards. Theory, you know what chords you're playing. How does one acquire taste?
That is something that you are taught by somebody who is more knowledgeable than you. Like I was taught, as I mentioned, that Jimmy Seals and Dr. John both said it's what you don't play that sounds good. That's taste. You don't want to step on everybody's toes, but I'm only talking about rock and roll Beatles type music. If you're a jazz musician and a fusion musician, every note is busy. It's all it never ends, and that's jazz infusion. To me, a simple melody, a simple thing, a simple melody. So I'm a simple caveman rocker, and I don't enjoy fusion and jazz. I love reggae because it's simple.
Yeah,
You know, I don't like hip hop and rap because I don't hear any lyrics. All I hear is I don't hear anything.
yeah,
So I grew up in a different world. I grew up in the Beatles. So there you go.
I got you. It's funny because also Frank Zappa was asked, and I mean, him and Miles Davis are sort of the founders or pioneers of jazz rock fusion. And they asked Frank, "What do you think of fusion?" He goes, "The only fusion I see is between the musician and the cash box."
That's
Because
smart.
all they did was put a 4/4 beat to jazz and go, "Okay, now we can sell it to hippies and we can sell jazz to hippies." That was really good description of fusion. I appreciate that. So along with this word taste, I'm going to read you a Marshall McLuhan line. I would love to hear your feelings on it. Song is slowed down speech. The reason cultures have different musical taste is ultimately connected to language difference. Any comment?
Absolutely. Every language has a different rhythm. English has a different rhythm than Spanish has a different rhythm than French, than Swahili. Every language has its own color and rhythm.
Yeah. What's more fundamental, music or language?
Music.
Dude, you're knocking them out of the park. Okay. Andy, tell me an instrumental that makes you laugh. It can't be Spike Jones. No lyrics, an instrumental that makes you laugh.
The theme song to Benny Hill, which is called Yakety Sax by Boots Randolph. And it
Dude,
goes. I used to love that as a kid.
it's a great song. And guess what? I do get that song as the answer in the past a couple other times. Very good.
Really?
Very good, Andy. That was super, especially because you sang the whole thing. And you knew the songwriter. You know, that's one of my favorite things about Wikipedia is you can look up the history of songs and who wrote them. You know,
I tell you,
we had a
I don't. I do not know how I survived without my cell phone.
yeah,
How did I do that? What did I do? I don't understand. I depend on my cell phone for everything. You name it. I can say, "Oh, by the way, how much money did John Lennon earn?" Or
right.
how do I get to the cafe? Or
Yeah,
what year was Joni Mitchell born? I mean,
yeah,
anything I want to know, I talk to my cell phone.
yep. McLuhan says everything humans invent extends some human sensorium or humanness. So the knife and fork extends our teeth. Clothing extends our skin. The shutter in your projector extends your eyelid. Religion or philosophy maybe extends consciousness. What does the keyboard extend for you? What humanness?
Emotion, just basic emotion, happy, sad.
Yeah,
That's what it is. If I'm in a good mood, I'll be rocking out. If I'm sad, I'll play a ballad.
yeah. Now, even though you have played keyboards mostly, you gravitated to drums and other instruments. Why do you think, what's your main instrument? Keyboard?
Yes, but my starting instrument was the drums, and
Yeah.
throughout my career, I have played drums a lot and rhythm guitar.
Okay, so talk about those three. What made you gravitate towards the keys, the drums, and the guitar?
Well, the drums was easy because my cousin gave me a drum set. So I automatically had it, and I'd go down to the basement and bang away. And it was a lot of fun. And then my dad sat me down at the piano as a hobby, and he showed me how to play the Snake Charmers song. Bum
How's it
bum
go?
bum 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 bum. You've heard it.
Yeah.
Anyway, so he just said to me, with your right hand, go like this, bum, 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 play the chord, and with your other hand, play the melody, bum, 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 bum. And then he said, switch with the other hand, play the chord, and with your other hand, play the melody, bum, bum, bum. So he taught me how to play left hand, right hand, rhythm and melody in 5 minutes. And that was my
Amazing.
only piano lesson.
At what age?
10.
Is that called multitasking?
Yes. To be able to play, it's like doing this thing, this thing. You've seen that, right?
Yes.
Anyway, it's the same thing to play rhythm and lead set, with opposite hands.
Then most of your career is playing keys for people like Flo and Eddie or the grandmothers. What gravitated you towards the rhythm guitar?
Oh, I just loved it. I mean, I took one guitar lesson, and the guy showed me how to play an E chord, and it was really heavy gauge metal strings, and it killed my fingers. I was in pain, and my fingers were all fucked up from trying to hold the E chord down. And I taught myself, oh, you can buy light gauge strings. So I get light gauge strings, and I taught myself all these chords, and then I start playing along with the Beatles. Whatever, all their chords are really basic, F sharp minor, C sharp minor, D, G, F, E, A, B, A minor, D minor, uh, but it's all easy shit, just got to learn it.
They asked someone, the Brill building, they asked them, what comes first? These guys were cranking, Carole King, they were cranking out these great songs. They said, what comes first, the melody or the lyrics? And they said, the phone call.
Right. Oh, you know what? I got to tell you a wonderful story because it fits right in there. You ready? Here it
Yes.
comes. Harry Nielsen was on the telephone and he got a busy signal. It went, the busy signal. So he wrote, one is the loneliest number that you'll ever use. So he wrote the song One because of the busy signal on the telephone. So I thought I'd bring that up there. That's kind of fit in.
That's beautiful. I use that sort of story on a lot of these things, and we'll get into that in a second. But before, I don't want to forget this. Do you have a ritual when you're writing a song? Is it melody first, words second? Is it totally vary, or is there some sort of ritual or process you find you're usually utilizing when you're writing a song?
I sit down at the piano and I just start playing anything that I want. Even if it's wrong, even if it's weird, I just start playing. And then if I like what I'm listening to, then I'll repeat it. And then I'll repeat it again. And then I'll start singing to it, just trying to make up shit. So that is my method, is just banging out.
So you're saying the melody will come first, then the words will come second.
The chords.
The chords come first.
Actually, the rhythm and the chords. The rhythm and the chords come first to me, and then that creates a foundation to put a melody.
Then a melody is second. Then
is last. I guess the rhythm. Yeah, the rhythm is first, the chords are second, and the melody is last.
And then when does the words come in?
After the melody.
Words.
Sometimes when I'm writing, I'll sing words like "I love you, baby" or something. So the words come with the melody usually. Yeah. In fact, that's the only way I create a melody is by singing words.
Yeah. Well, now we go into this Harry Nielsen story. Really anticipated a question I have, Andy. You must have ESP. So two of my film heroes, their mantra is ignore yourself. There is no self-expression. Cecil Taylor, the great jazz pianist, says, I'm just a vehicle and this stuff comes through me. So is songwriting, art making more a vehicle for whatever technology, culture, environments are dominant, or more self-expression?
They're both tied together, but it is a vehicle of self-expression. You're showing everybody else that's a human being and maybe some animals, but you're showing them what you're thinking and feeling. So you paint a picture of a naked woman, or you play a really pretty song, or you dance a really cool dance. So you're expressing your humanism to the other humans.
It's good. Can songwriting, art making be egoless?
Egoless?
Yeah, no ego.
Egoless. Oh, no ego. Well, let's see. There are many, many musicians who do not have an ego, who only care about creating art. That's all they care about. They don't care about the money. They don't care about this. They don't care about that. All they want to do is create and make music and make art. That's what they want to do. And then there are others who say, I want to get paid. You got to pay me to do this shit, man. That's what I do for a living. You got to pay me. So there's two different outlooks. You got the guy who doesn't care about money and just wants to create the music. And then you got the other guy who can create music and do all that shit, but he really is locked into the business and the money, and he wants to get paid, and it's not right if he, so that's the life of a musician. Most musicians do not get paid. I'd say 99% of
Yeah.
all musicians don't get paid what they're worth. The 1%, the Bruce Springsteen, Paul McCartney, Neil Young, Mick Jagger, that's the 1%. They get paid. But everybody else is, it's a bitch.
Totally, I agree with you, and I'm glad we're talking, Andy. It's really great. We had a line at my art gallery in Venice, and we booked a lot of musicians, and nobody got paid, but we had a great time. And we'd go, "How much are we not paying you? Double that." You've heard that line. So, back to this Harry Nielsen thing. He was affected by the busy signal. Captain Beefheart was with Denny Wally, one of your comrades. And they were driving in a car, and Captain Beefheart heard the windshield wipers, and he wrote a song from the rhythm or beat of the windshield wipers. James Brown's drummer lived in Ohio, and there's a train track on one side of his house and a factory on the other. So he's the architect of funk drumming. Boom, boom. It's the train track sound and the sizzle of the factory noise. Ginger Baker was in London. They said, "Where'd you get your drum sound?" And he said, "I was in London when they were bombing us." So it's boom, 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 boom. So this is that. How much is your environment affecting your sound? And you've touched on this, but I was wondering if you wanted to elaborate at all, because you're going to Greenwich Village as a kid, and then you're hearing other rock bands. What else in your environment affected your sound? The Andy sound.
Well, first of all, when I'm driving a car, the steering wheel is like the tom tom or this the kick drum. I hit the steering wheel with my hand, and it goes boom, and then I hit the dashboard with my palm. So it's a drum. Boom, boom, bap, to boom, boom, bap, to boom, boom, bap, boom. So I can play my car. Now, Frank Zappa was extremely influenced by a guy named Edgar Varese. Are you familiar with Edgar Varese?
Edgar Varese, of course. He's a wannabe.
I pronounced his name wrong. Anyhow, Frank Zappa did the Steve Allen show and played a bicycle. Do you remember that? Okay.
Yes.
Well, he got all that shit from Edgar Varese. If you listen to Edgar Varese's album that I have, it's a black and white with all the squiggles of light. There's a song on that album that Frank Zappa stole verbatim. You can hear them equally. He literally stole the Edgar Varese shit.
Yeah.
So that was Frank Zappa's biggest influence, was sound. Yoko Ono also utilized wind instruments that made noise because of the wind. So that's a very creative outlook on making music.
I know, but Andy, you got us into a lot of good detours here, because T.S. Eliot said that the mature poet steals and the immature poet imitates. If we told Frank, "You're a Edgar Varese, Spike Jones wannabe," he'd go, "Thanks for the compliment."
That's very true. Frank would say that. Yes.
He would. And he was. He's basically Edgar Varese meets Spike Jones and throw in a little Johnny Guitar Watson. But what I asked you was, what environments technologies, cultures affected the Andy keyboard sound, not musical influences, the environments around you. What else affected you? You said Yoko was affected by the wind. Frank, was affected by these musical influences, but I'm talking about like Ginger Baker being affected by the sounds of the bombs, and James Brown's drummer affected by that factory, and then the Neville brothers were the Meters. The Meters. Sissies,
Yes.
they wrote a song where their car was sputtering and they went, they wrote a song because of the sputtering. So I'm just asking you, can you recount any environments, culture, technology that affected the Andy keyboard sound?
Absolutely. I uh, lived on the edge of a cliff overlooking the ocean in Malibu.
Yeah,
It was a 70-foot cliff, and the balcony of the home was right on the cliff.
yeah,
So every morning I would wake up with a bowl of hash and have a cup of coffee and stand out on the edge and look over the ocean. And there was a drum set and a piano and a guitar right there.
yeah,
So I was stoned and checking out the ocean, and that just completely took
yeah.
my whole body over, and I was creative. It was an inspiration to the hilt.
It's beautiful. So well put.
I mean, I watched a Humphrey Bogart movie the other night, and they were on a boat, and the boat's motor. So I said, there's another song right there.
Yeah,
Somebody should loop that and make a song out of the motor from the boat.
that was probably African Queen. Yeah.
Yeah, no, it was an older one than that. It was
Oh,
a
really?
real
Okay.
old one.
Okay, let's go. You're talking old. Let's go way back. What do you think the motive of the cave artist was, or the cave musicians? Your hunch or your guess?
The same thing I said earlier. It's a human thing. It's what
Yeah.
humans do. That's what they do. They express themselves and they entertain the other humans by drawing a picture. They can get a stick and go into the sand and draw a picture. And that's entertainment. That's communication.
It's
It's
good.
art.
What's more important, conviction or compromise?
Compromise.
Dude, you're knocking them out of the park. That's amazing. Now, why would you say compromise? Most people say conviction. Why do you say compromise?
Conviction closes the door, compromise opens the door.
Duh. Where'd you get that from? The way your parents raised you or on your own?
Just now, just my thinking, just smoking some weed and thinking. That's it.
But I mean, Andy, you have something in you. You have a history of living on earth for over 74 years. Where did that sensibility that compromise is more important come from? How you were raised or on your own?
When you get hit in the face with shit and you deal with it, that's how you compromise.
Yeah,
Or else you're fucked up.
that's right.
You gotta let it go. You got let it be. You gotta, you
Dude,
know,
you're a wise human. I love you. That's beautiful. So you've accomplished a lot. What a book. What a press kit. John Cage said it doesn't matter what the press says, it's how thick your press kit is. You got a
is
thick
that was that John Kay?
John Cage.
Oh, John Cage. Okay.
Yeah, he said your press kit's thick, dude. You've accomplished a lot. How do you rate these three elements? Luck, skill, and ambition. What played the big in
Ambition is first, and skill is second, and then luck.
is ambition your observations of humans in general? Is ambition based more on fear or joy?
Joy. You don't want a negative, you want positive.
Beautiful. Lewis Carroll says, I believe as many as 6 impossible things before breakfast. Have you believed in any impossible things lately?
Being healthy. Well, I have some health problems that I would love to get rid of. That's
Yeah.
basically it.
Yeah, Sun Ra, the great jazz shaman, said, the impossible attracts me because everything possible has been done and the world didn't change.
Well, that's very true. It's like music repeats itself, life repeats itself. So a change and is always good because you get stuck in that doldrum of the same old Groundhog's Day. It's the same, different days, same shit.
Yep. If you were ruler of the world, what would you do on your first day?
Tell George Carlin he should be ruler of the world. Can
That
I
is
tell you, this is the truth? This is the
a good
truth.
answer.
I was backstage with George Carlin in Indio at the Fantasy Springs Casino. And it was a huge, huge dressing room that you can fit 150 people in. And when I went backstage, it was only George, a stool, a piece of paper with his outline of his show, and a bottle of water. And when I met him and I said, hey, George, I just wanted to tell you, if you should ever decide to become ruler of the world, I'll run your campaign for you.
That is amazing. You truly do have ESP, man. I'm going to send that as soon as we're done. I'm going to send this to Kelly Carlin, George's daughter. She'll love to hear that.
If you tell her I love her already because she's George's daughter.
She's great. What did you see the new George Carlin documentary, the 4
Oh,
hours?
fuck yeah. I know everything about George.
Yeah. Okay, now this is implying change. You're ruler of the world, then you'd make George Carlin ruler of the world. Great strategy, Andy. But what's an important change you would like to see in the world in general? Like your observations of where we're at in the world, is there a change that you would like to implement or see happen?
Greed. Eliminate greed.
Yeah. But
That is
isn't
the most important. If you eliminate greed, everything else will fall into place.
but Andy, wouldn't you say humans are innately greedy? That greed is innate in humans. How do you change what's innate? We need to eat. That's innate. Isn't it what you're trying to say is you want to be turn your greed down a little? Or what are you trying to say? Because that's
You have
get
to
rid
kill it. You have to kill greed. You have to
yeah.
totally eliminate greed. Totally. Totally. If that was eliminated totally, we'd be fucking set.
The great folk singer activist Utah Phillips said that anarchy is making rules for other people and not yourself. No, excuse me, I said that all wrong. He said anarchy is making rules for yourself and not other people. Excuse me, what a blooper. That's what anarchy is. Now, it's a debatable thing, but the question is who's entitled to make the rules?
Nobody is entitled to tell anybody else what to do with their life. Period. That's my philosophy. You don't have the right to tell me what shirt to wear. I don't have the right to tell you what car to drive. Uh, Nobody should tell anybody what to do. Everybody should be themselves and live in harmony. That's basically what I grew up with. I always hated war. I always hated bullets. I always hated guns. I love monster movies because that's creative. It's fun. It's exciting. It's scary. I love monsters, but I don't like war and killing.
What's the difference between rights and responsibilities?
Responsibility is right. So they're both the same to me.
Great
I mean, if
social.
you're not responsible, it's wrong.
Yeah. Great socialist John Basil Barnhill says, where the people fear the government, you have tyranny. Where the government fears the people, you have liberty. Then V for Vendetta, the 2005 film, paraphrased it and said, people should not be afraid of their governments. Governments should be afraid of their people. How do you personally handle false fears like the war on drugs? So, there was this great government official. He said, you can't have a war on drugs because drugs don't fight. And you can't say no to drugs because drugs don't talk. So, you know what I mean by false fears, like war on drug, war on poverty, war on terrorism. How do you personally handle false fears?
That's another human trait. It's called lying. People lie and they make up shit to scare the fuck out of you. It's
Yeah,
called fear and control. And
yeah,
that's what certain select humans do. They like to control everybody. They kill them and take over their shit. And that's the opposite of the Beatles. See, I grew up as a Beatle. Peace, love, peace, love. No more war. Peace,
yeah,
love. No more war. So that's the difference to me. Uh,
yeah.
when you uh, when you start creating shit like telling somebody what to wear or telling somebody you can't do this and you can only do that. No, I don't agree with that. That is wrong.
On what occasion do you lie?
To protect myself or my loved ones.
Very good. When they asked Tom Waits, on what occasion do you lie? He says, I didn't know I needed an occasion.
He's funny. He's great.
Okay, are we hardwired? Is for competition? Is being competitive innate or invented? And I'm going to set it up with this quote. Games were created to give non heroes the illusion of winning. In real life, you don't know who really won or lost, but you can tell who a hero is and who is not. So, any thoughts on that quote? And are we hardwired for competition?
Well, it's an animal thing. It's like what is it called? Alpha dog or alpha? The
Yeah,
guy, the leader of the pack. That's the
yeah.
same scenario where you're in control. You're running the ship. You're telling. You're That's a automatic human trait is to uh, to do that.
But what do you think of this line? Games were created to give non heroes the illusion of winning. In real life, no one really wins or lost, but you can tell who a hero is. Any thoughts
Yeah.
on that?
Well, games is a double-sided sword. If you win the game, you're ecstatic and happy, and life is great. If you lose the game, it's fucked up and you're sad. So it goes both ways.
Yeah. Does punishment work? Because when we catch a criminal, does the criminal go, whoa, I did something morally wrong? Or do they go, wow, my criminal skills weren't up to snuff that day?
I strongly believe in an eye for an eye. So if somebody punches you in the face, you got to punch them in the face. If somebody kills your daughter, you got to kill their daughter. So that's my philosophy on that.
Do you believe in capital punishment?
Ah, that falls under the same eye for an eye, tooth for a tooth category. It's like, if the crime requires capital punishment because of the severity, I would probably agree with it.
Wow. That isn't that the opposite of love your enemy though?
Yeah, but if the guy cuts off somebody's head and rapes his daughter, then fuck yeah,
You don't
kill him.
believe you don't believe in rehabilitation, reform.
Oh, I do believe in rehabilitation. Yes, I do. Absolutely. Anybody can be rehabilitated in their own right. Some people are chemically disturbed, like it's a chemical, it's electricity, it's wrong. So they're fucked up and you can't talk to them. Some people are like that. Other people who have been damaged by trauma, they can be fixed. I mean, if you bring out the good. So, any kind of a trauma, you need to get sensitive therapy for. But if it's a chemical thing where you acquire a chemical imbalance like a sickness, you have to be put into a situation where you can be taken care of, so you're not hurting anybody or hurting yourself.
How do we keep our governments from going to war?
That is the way they function. That is the money. The dollar sign is the reason for government. That is why we have religion and government, is the money, power,
But
control,
how
power.
do we keep them from going to war? You don't want to have war. How do you keep them from going to war?
Well, you listen to Bernie Sanders. He says the people got to do it. Not the 1%, not the few, but the people. And that's always been the situation where you have a whole bunch of people, like with Martin Luther King and all that shit. But that's how you hopefully can change a government. But right now, our government is corrupt on both sides of the fence.
Yeah.
Both sides of the fence, totally corrupt, completely corrupt. There's absolutely no philanthropic thinking at all. It's all make money, make money, make money, oil, 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 make money, power and control, make money, make money. That's all it is. It's horrible.
Well, Andy, let's get back to music and love. That's our two main topics here. Tell me, in your many years of making music, one major element that stayed the same in your creative process and one major element that's changed.
The major element that stays the same is the joy of performing and the
Yeah.
joy of playing. The other one that changed is the way you sell your song.
Yeah.
In the olden days, we used to have vinyl, and I would
Yeah.
sell you an album, and you would buy an album and you can hold it in your hand and put it on your phonograph. That's then. Now you go online and you pay 99 cents for a download.
Yeah.
And my music is online. It's on every goddamn
Platform.
website. My last royalty was 5 cents.
Yeah.
There's no way to make. I don't know how anybody makes money in the music business now,
Yeah.
unless you're. I don't know how they do it. I'm
Yeah.
out of the loop. I'm out of the loop.
It's pretty hard. Yeah. So most
There's
you go ahead.
there's other people at the Grammy Museum that are performing, and they're in their 20s and they're young kids, and they have a whole audience, but I don't know their music and I don't know their song and I don't know who
Yeah.
they are, but they have a huge following. So I'm
Yeah.
out of the loop of a lot of stuff that's going on for the youth, the
Yeah.
millennials.
Yeah. Moshe Feldenkrais works with healing and movement. He says it's literally possible to identify a weakness and incorporate it to become a strength rather than we're normally taught to overcome a weakness. Tell me a weakness you turned into a strength.
Temper tantrum.
And how'd you turn it into a strength?
By controlling it. I have to control it. Because when I get rubbed the wrong way, I'm so used to I'm a spoiled brat from a child. So
Yeah.
I'm always used to getting my way. So
Yeah.
when somebody prevents me from getting my way, I get really angry.
Yeah.
And I used to get my way when I have temper tantrums with my parents. And that was bad for me because I grew up like that. And I would depend on my temper tantrum to get my way, but it
Yeah.
doesn't work now. If I yell at somebody, it makes things worse. It doesn't make anything better. So I try to keep my mouth shut.
Anger can be a productive emotion when fill in the blank.
You're alone and you don't hurt or impose on anybody.
It's good. You create what you resist. This is a thought that Bob Goldthwait, the comedian, morphed into. You are what you hate. James Joyce said it's a curious thing how your mind is super saturated with the religion in which you say you disbelieve. Louis Buñuel said, thank God I'm an atheist. So just to Andy, off the top of your head, what do you think of this line? You create what you resist. Not you, but one creates what one resists. Any thoughts on that idea?
Yeah, it's energy, it's karma, it's cosmic energy that your body and your brain and your electricity attract.
Yeah.
The law of attraction. Whatever you feel is what you attract. If you're happy go lucky, bouncy, bubbly, blah blah, you'll attract that. If you're bummed out and shit and fuck you and fuck you and fuck you, you're going to attract that. So that's been my motive for trying to be a good boy.
It's good. How do you find peace of mind?
That's a hard one. That means either you just got laid or you just got stoned or something really good happened. That's peace of mind to me when you're, oh boy, that was great. Oh, I feel great. Oh, that was terrific. But if you're bummed out and shit it out, there's no peace of mind there. A peace of mind is an accomplishment. You've satisfied a need, a want. You've satisfied it.
What's the most significant difference between men and women, physical aside?
Complicated thinking and ego. Well, not ego, no. I would say complicated thinking. Women are much more complicated than men. Even though men think they're smart, women got them beat. There is so much more detail and so much more shit they talk about and think about. We don't do that. Maybe there's a couple of guys that do it, but not as many as women.
Yeah, there's an old saying, I'm not saying it's true or not, but they say the word mafia begins with the two letters MA, ma, because women run the world, but they let men think they run the world.
I would say so, yeah. Well, you know, the whole purpose of life is to keep the species going, make babies, and the man chases the woman, and there you go.
Yep.
That's life. It's the same thing with the zebra and an elephant and an alligator. They all do. They all want to get laid and make more alligators.
If you were walking down the street today and you met yourself as a 12-year-old, what would you say to your 12-year-old self?
I am you at 74. Let's have some fun. Let's go bowling.
That is a great answer, Andy. This has really been fun. We've got about a few more minutes. Well, we got 20 more minutes, so I'm going to lay this one on you now. Thank you so much. Super fun. 5 Alan Watts questions just off the top of your head in a few words. First one, who started it all?
Which came first, the chicken or the egg? Who started it? Let's see. Well, I'll have to say the male species, a man, the very first man on the planet Earth started it.
Are we going to make it?
Well, in our lifetime, yes. Maybe in a couple of billion years, the Earth will not exist anymore.
Where do we put it?
Where do we put what?
You answered a question with a question. You win. That's what this series is all about. Fourth question, who's cleaning it up?
The same guy who put it there.
Fifth Alan Watts question, is it serious?
Yeah, sure it is. It's life.
What's the function of laughter?
Release of emotional stress.
McLuhan loved to quote Steve Allen, behind every joke, there's a grievance. Any comment?
That's how George Carlin did his humor.
Yeah.
He picked out all the grievances of the human species and pointed it out and told everybody what they were doing, and they laugh. It's like when you're embarrassed or you're scared, you'll laugh to try to chase away the fear. So that's what George Carlin did. That's that same, he pointed out all the stupid shit you're doing, and you laugh at it because he's right.
Yeah. I asked my friend who wrote Comedy with Robin Williams, can satire be destructive? And he said, that's the job of satire. Now, most people say yes, because if you do a certain cartoon in a certain country and they kill you, some people think dying is destructive. So Jonathan Swift compared satire to a mirror in which people could see every face but their own. What's the function of satire?
Again, it's a release, it's a relief, it's something that the human species needs in order to be comfortable and relieve themselves of any negative or stress. So that's what it does. It brings out the good.
We grew up on what was called fake news or satire news. That was the week that was Mad Magazine, then Saturday Night Live, then Harry Shearer. Now we have the Colbert Show and Daily. Now it's not called fake news anymore. It's called satire news. So you know what I'm talking about. A lot of people get their news from Colbert and not from, Walter Cronkite. Does satire news more activate or more pacify people?
It'll pacify them, but sometimes it won't be the correct answer to the question. It won't be the right news, but it'll pacify.
Yeah. If a publisher was to release your autobiography off the top of your head, what would the title be?
The most famous musician you never heard of.
That is your book. Plug that book. Okay, now they didn't do this, Andy. Tell me this. If they said, we want to scent the glue in the binding of your book, what smell would it be?
Well, there you go then. It would smell like book glue.
I've had that answer. Very good. They want to build a statue in your honor. Where would it be displayed and what would it be made of?
It would be made of bronze and it would be on the beach in Malibu near Point Doom, where they shot Planet of the Apes.
Tell me something good you never had and you never want.
And I never want
Yeah, it's good. You never had it, but you never want it.
a hip hop record.
That's good. Good answer. You touched on this question earlier, and I was pretty amazed. If you were in a vat of vomit up to your neck and someone threw a bag of shit at your face, what would you do?
Choke.
Now you have you ever choked on stage?
Well, I sneezed one time, which fucked up my vocal. And yeah, sneezing will fuck you up. And what else fucks me up? Yeah, if I had a cough or something,
Yeah.
any kind of physical thing that happens. Um, yeah, sneezing or a burp, belching.
Yeah.
You have a belch and you go to sing and you go, blah, So that's the kind of stuff that happens.
Ruth Draper was a very influential performance artist. She said, the key is to bring the audience up onto the stage and into the scene with you. It is they who must give you even more than you give them in the way of imagination and creative power. That sounds good. How do you accomplish that?
Okay, could you do me a favor and repeat that one more time? I
Yeah.
didn't.
No,
Sure.
it's pretty amazing what she says. The key is to bring the audience up onto the stage and into the scene with you. It is they, the audience, who must give you even more than you give them in way of imagination and creative power. How do you bring the audience into the whole mood of performing music live? How do you engage the audience?
Well, that's a really simple answer. When I play with the Turtles and we do Happy Together, at the end of the song, Howard goes, he holds the microphone out to the audience and they all go, ba, 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 ba. So that is bringing the audience onto the stage
Yeah.
because they love and are familiar with the music. Just like Mick Jagger or Bruce Springsteen or Paul McCartney or anybody, when the audience knows the music, they're on stage singing along. And Paul McCartney and other artists have brought people up on stage with them. So
Yeah.
it does happen. And then they go out into the audience. See, Mark Volman used to do that. He used to jump off the stage and run around the audience. And the same thing with the Mick Jagger or Springsteen, or I've seen a lot of acts do that where they jump out into the audience. And that anytime you can make the audience part of the show, they're more excited and more happy.
Yeah. Well, we got about 10 more minutes, Andy. This has been really fun, and I really appreciate it. I really understand what you're about now a lot better, and I encourage people to buy your book. But why don't you tell us a few stories playing with the Turtles and playing with Flo and Eddie? The Flo and Eddie band. What happened with Flo and Eddie's manager? He committed suicide. Do you know about that?
Well, that was along the way. They had like a dozen different managers, and each one of them ripped him off in his own way. Uh, the story of rock and roll is that the Beatles got ripped off, the Rolling Stones got ripped off, Little Richard got ripped off, Chuck Berry got ripped off, Flo and Eddie got ripped off, because the business is, you got to know the business before you sign a contract, because the musicians care more about the music than they do the business. And
Yeah.
that's very bad because they don't get paid. So in other words, you got to know the business and you got to know how to take care of business so you're treated properly with royalties and everything. But with
But
Flo and Eddie, I learned a lot from Mark Volman. He was the businessman of the band. He ran the show. The Turtles were the only band to have two bands, an East Coast band and a West Coast band. That way, they didn't have to pay the airfare and the hotels. They were, it was local flights,
yeah,
like the Mississippi or whatever. But, that was really clever of them. It saved them a lot of money on airfare. Uh, but Mark was a great businessman, and he ran the show great. Unfortunately, uh, Mark and Howard are each unavailable to tour
now you
because
mean.
because of health reasons.
Yeah.
So Ron Dante, the guy from the Archies who did Sugar Sugar, bum,
Yeah.
bum, bum, bum,
Yeah.
he's the lead singer of the Turtles.
I
And,
see.
so there's nobody from the Turtles on the stage anymore.
Oh, I see. But you had a good spell with Flo and Eddie as Flo and Eddie, not the Turtles.
40
Well,
years.
yeah.
40 years.
Yeah. But let's just have you react to this statement because you implied it. They asked Nancy Sinatra, Frank's daughter, when did the mob enter the music business? And Nancy said, honey, we invented the music business.
Well, that's a good Italian answer. That's a good mafia. It's a good mafia answer.
Yeah,
But
because you know,
a, a real
Buzzy
funny.
Linhart.
Well, I
Buzzy
was going
Lin,
to say a real funny note on Nancy Sinatra.
yeah.
These boots are made for walking. Was tied first place on Billboard with Happy Together. They were
Wow.
both number one.
Yeah, I was just gonna say Buzzy Linhart, great songwriter. He wrote You Gotta Have Friends, and Bette Midler and Barry Manilow made lots of money encoring their shows with it. The mob owned his publishing, and I met him on the Venice boardwalk busking one day. So anyways, any other thoughts you have, Andy, on your longevity of loving to play music, even though you're up against this horrible consumer culture business of it? I mean, Frank Zappa went on Dinah Shore once and she goes, what do you think of the music business? And he says, well, the only part of those two words anybody worries about is business. They don't care about music. But you still have a love of playing music, even though, and you've had a good career. But how have you kept up that sort of positive love of playing music, whether you get paid or not?
Well, I love the adulation. Is that the right word? Adulation?
Yeah.
What does adulation mean? The compliments, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, that's, when I saw the Beatles, I was making monster movies. And I said to myself, I'm not going to pick up any girls making monster movies. I want to be a Beatle.
Yeah.
So it's the adulation. It's people coming up to you and saying, wow, you were great. Wow, I really love that. Wow. So
Yeah.
that is the reward for an
Yeah.
actor or a musician. An artist is more, when you paint a picture, people don't go screaming and yelling. They just say, I'll buy it. But,
Yeah.
when you're an entertainer in the theater and the audience cheering and yelling and cheering and yelling, there's nothing like it.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting because there was I lost my piece of paper here. I got to grab it. So this is a music writer. Ben Ratliff says, I mean sound as it has long functioned among jazz players as a mystical term of art, as in every musician finally needs a sound, a full and sensible embodiment of their artistic personality, such that it can be heard at best in a single note. So he gives the examples of a few jazz guys. Miles Davis, fragile and pointed. John Coltrane, slightly undercooked and urgent. So you can apply it to you, the Andy sound. We can hear a chord by Hendrix, and we can hear a note by Hendrix and go, oh, that's Jimmy. So if a music writer who you respected well was going to summarize the Andy sound in a couple adjectives, what would you feel honored? The two words he would say, Andy is blank and blank.
Memorable.
What's the other word?
Fun.
Oh, that is good. What's the cultural shift you see developing today that inspires you?
Oh, that inspires me. Cultural shift. Well, unfortunately, we're out of balance right now. We got more negativity on the planet than positivity. We're in we're in a black zone right now. For the last 5 years, we've been in a black zone. It's not. It's been okay. You can tell by Paul McCartney's last album. Have you heard Paul's last album?
I heard a little of it. Yeah.
It's okay, but
Yeah.
it's not the Paul McCartney that we grew up with
Yeah.
when he did his maybe I'm amazed and all that wonderful stuff. This new album reflects the stress and anxiety and
Yeah.
difficult world we live in.
Yeah.
And his songs are it's really fighting. It's not
Yeah.
mellow and pretty and nice.
Yeah.
It's but there are good songs, but it doesn't have the same uh excitement as his earlier music.
Yeah. It was good. Andy, I got two more and we're out of here. Thank you again. Thornton Wilder wrote in 1928, art is confession. Art is the secret told. But art is not only the desire to tell one's secret, it's the desire to tell it and hide it at the same time. You've laid your cards on the table for over 90 minutes. I'm not insinuating you haven't already answered this. What's it really all about for you?
A compliment. I really desire somebody telling me I'm good. That's
Beautiful.
basically it. Honest.
Beautiful. Yeah, that's honest and that's acknowledging. I think people should acknowledge each other and praise each other. The last question, Andy, is what gives you the most optimism?
When people are nice to each other.
Yeah. How simple is that? The first question is what's the best thing for a human being? And you said sex. Well, that usually entails another human being. The last question is what gives you the most optimism? This is what they asked Groucho Marx at the end of his life. What gives you the most optimism? He said, other people.
Other people. Yeah.
Yeah, the first question was rooted in Wilhelm Reich, and he says, what's the best thing for a human being is another human being. So,
Aha.
so it is a full circle thing. Music's all about sharing with other people. This time with you is about sharing your ideas. We encourage people to go to the link here and they can learn all about your appearance at the Grammy Museum. Pick up a copy of your book, watch you on YouTube. Show them your book cover one more time, Andy, and tell them what it's called.
It's called The Most Famous Musician You Never Heard of, with Jimi Hendrix, Ringo Starr, Harry Nilsson, Seals and Croft, Little Richard, Chuck Berry, Linda Ronstadt, Grace Slick. It just goes on and on. And I'm November the 9th, 3 weeks from now, November the 9th, at the Grammy Museum in Los Angeles on 800 West Olympic at 7 to 9 p.m. I'll be doing a book signing, and I'll be performing live with question and answer, and it'll be a lot of fun. Grammy Museum, November
How
9.
how cool is that? And I know you've been at Composers Breakfast Club, and Richard's giving you a big praise. And who's that cute guy on the cover of your book?
That's me when I looked like that. I was in Sydney, Australia, with Little Richard, and that's what I looked like then. And there's actually a photo on my website, which is a half and half. I had a girl splice my face in half and take this picture and then put it onto this, and it was very cool.
Very
So
cool. Andy, that is so cool. Thank you so much for your time and energy. I'm gonna hit the end broadcast button, but that doesn't mean I want our discussion to go on forever and ever. Thank you so much.
you're welcome.
Really was fun, dude.